Hey guys, I thought I said in the last video I would start doing this, and I thought I'd start it next month, but it turns out today is actually a very good day to start it. Um, what it is comic book reviews again. I thought I'd start doing them again on my own, and today was actually a great day to start because today I picked up one, two, three, four, five comics and Uh, four, sorry, three of them are annuals, so you don't really need to know what's going on. The other two, well, the other one of them is an issue 4. Well, you'll see, and then the last one is a issue 1 of a new limited series. So I just thought it'd be a good week to start, and I have the time, so might as well get started, right? So first comic up this week is Adventure Time Annual number 1. So I'm a huge fan of the Adventure Time cartoon show. It's probably my favorite thing on television right now. And I feel that the comic so far has done a really good job capturing the spirit of the show. Same thing for the Fiona and Cake limited series. Honestly, it's one of my favorite comics every month. Unfortunately, the annual is a little bit disappointing. So the regular comic, like most comics, of course, has an arc-based storyline. Meanwhile, this annual, like all annuals, is a little bit removed. It's kind of a one-shot, but is in fact a number of mini stories, as you can see here. It's a large amount, and it's still it's a thick book. It is an annual. It's a $5 book, but just the number of stories means that each one is very short. So as you can see, the first one is only a couple pages, well, a few pages. So I mean, each one's nice. I wouldn't say that any of the individual stories are bad, and the art I think is great. This is more of the normal kind of Adventure Time art that you get, but also each story has a different artist, so you get kind of this style too. That's kind of more like a hand-drawn children's board game. I think is neat, but also the font. You get a little crypt, Tales from the Crypt, and then going further, you get this. I think this is the most beautiful story, most well illustrated story in the book, and then you go back, I guess, to some more just kind of basic Adventure Timey art. And in each individual story, like I said, is good, but it's a little too short. Like, you don't get enough development of the actual story. It's like they begin, there's a slight conflict, and then at the end. Which also means that there isn't a lot of room for jokes. What I like about the normal Adventure Time comic is that each issue is really full of jokes, and like on every page you'll get a nice chuckle out of something, and each page kind of, each two-page splash, well, not splash, but each two-page has its own kind of setup punchline, and it's a formula that works. It's a formula that's great. This, like I said, that the main issue is that each story isn't long enough, and I've said that like 20 times, but it's still very good. The best story is the final one, with the Earls of Lemongrab doing a picnic, because the Earl of Lemongrab is kind of like a one-note character, so he and it really fits this sort of format, I guess, very well, which is probably why it's the best one. But I guess that's all of it. Also, the Ice King. I mean, Ice King's always great. You have Ice King playing a role-playing game, Dungeons and Dragons, basically with the Gunters. So there are some neat jokes. It's still, I'd recommend it, but probably as more of an intro. If you're following the comic, I mean, pick it up. Why not? It's an annual. And if it's a good tasting course, I guess. It's a good appetizer for the delicious entree, what is the actual Adventure Time comic. So next on the list is Justice League of America issue 4, which is kind of an awkward book. It's right in the middle of an arc. So I guess to catch you up, the JLA is going after secret society of supervillains, and they just in the previous issue they sent Catwoman in as a mole. So she got captured, she's exploring, and the rest of the team is going to find where she is and pick her up and everything. I'd say this is... It does exposition well. It's not the climax of the arc yet, of course. But you have a lot of exposition. It's done very well. It doesn't feel like you're getting an info dump. They introduce you to a lot of the villains in the book. There's Copperhead, and a pale guy who I'm not quite sure who he is. He kind of looks like the Joker. He has the purple suit thing going on, but he's not the Joker. Let me find a good image. This is also a big book. Oh, you have Dr. Ivo, who created like the Red Tornado and all that. He created a kind of a blockbuster character who you can see on the cover, kind of like a Yeti man. I don't want to do a page of spoiler, but yeah, here's the society over here, and you have Copperhead and purpley guy who looks like the Joker but is not the Joker. So yeah, I mean, it's a good place. It's so far. I think the arc really picks up here, because before, I mean, it was kind of a very slow build. This is, like I said, not the climax, but a definitely an exciting point. You do get kind of a thing at the end that happens that's like, oh, I mean, you know it's not real because it's comics, and you know, like it probably won't stick, but still, it's a kind of moment. A very nice build-up. It's clear that there's maybe 1 or 2 issues left in the arc. So not a good jumping on point, but if you have been following, things are finally looking good. You have Dr. Light makes an appearance, but he's not Dr. Light yet. I mean, his name is Dr. Light, and I don't mean from Mega Man, I mean Dr. Light from DC Comics. Something happens that probably turns him, blah, blah, blah. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. And Trevor has the invisible jet that is property of the U.S. government. Well, it's a custom. It's not Wonder Woman's, but it is an invisible jet. I think that's neat. It's a neat nod. I still don't like what they're doing to Amanda Waller, making her all skinny and shit. Amanda Waller should be a wall, but whatever. Also, what's up with this on the cover with Catwoman? Come on, they don't even look like breasts. Like, what the fuck? You know, that's just gratuitous. The best part of this comic, though, is probably the Martian Manhunter story at the end, the little epilogue. I'm a huge fan of the Martian Manhunter character, and I kind of like what they're doing here in this comic by making him this pretty much the most powerful thing on Earth. They've hinted at in earlier Justice League comics that he's kind of single-handedly taken on the entire Justice League. He's a force to be reckoned with. Everyone's kind of suspicious of him. And they're kind of doing what they did with Shazam in the Justice League books by kind of giving him his own backstory here and his own kind of comic at the end. And it's probably the best part of the book. It really does explain about Martian Manhunter. They finally touch on the weakness to fire. And it's good characterization. So if you like Martian Manhunter, I'd recommend picking up this book pretty much just for him. But it is a good book on its own, and the rest of the characters are enjoyable. The plot's finally picking up. So another good book. Yeah. So next on the list is Earth 2 Annual Number 1. And to be completely honest, I picked this up because of Batman. I started reading Earth 2 when it first came out, but after the first arc, I didn't really see it going anywhere too fast, so I wasn't that interested. But after reading the annual, I think I might start reading it again every month. this was a really good annual. Um, it's a good place to pick up on the story, like most annuals are. It's kind of a one-shot. Um, so there's a lot of explanation, but it's not heavy-handed at all. It feels very natural. It's a natural jumping on point. Um, they kind of flesh out Atom Smasher, who was a character introduced in the first arc, or was it? Yeah, in earlier in Earth 2. Kind of give him backstory, give him some characterization. Kind of similar with Martian Manhunter, actually. His story is kind of about survivor's guilt. Um, but it's good. It's well written. I'm enjoying it. I enjoy the story, even though I don't really enjoy the character. It's like I'm not a fan of Atom Smasher. I really don't know anyone who is, but he's a good character, especially in this book. And they tie it in very well with the introduction of Earth 2's new Batman, who I'm like I said, I haven't been following. This is the first book I've picked up since probably issue whenever the first arc ended. I forget what issue that was. But they find a good way to tie it in. It's a very Batman moment when he does make his first appearance. This, I think, is just a really cool image. I do like this costume. I like the red and black on Batman much more than I do with Nightwing. Although it does, of course, give me shades of Azrael, especially with the wrist-mounted stuff and the red eyes. Very Azraelish. Also very Batman Flashpoint universe. So I do like the costume. I do like the comic in general. I'd pick it up. I'd pick it up if you want to start reading Earth 2. I think this is a great jumping on point. And it's well written. It introduces you to the heroes already there. Well, at least one of them, who is one of the more obscure heroes just in the overall DC universe. Of course, Earth 2 has already introduced Alan Scott Green Lantern and Jay Garrick the Flash. So if you like those two, I'd hop on now. And now we have a new Batman, who they're setting up a lot of mystery as to who he is, which is great. And he seems competent. He seems cool. And also on the back, there's the epilogue with Big Barda and Scott Free. Who's Scott Free? What's his superhero alias? Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle, that's who it is. And they're looking for this new Batman, trying to figure out who he is. When I believe this is Wonder Woman of Earth 2's daughter. I think her name's Fury, but don't quote me on that. Shows up. But it's a good annual. I think like what annuals are supposed to do, it's a good jumping on point. It's also a good kind of recap point. I'm sure if you have been reading, it's a nice breather of a comic. And they set up threads for the next year, which is brilliant, with the new Batman character, who I am interested in. So, like I said, I think I'm going to start picking this up monthly now. So, just powering through to our third and final annual of the week. It is Batman the Dark Knight Annual, #1. And this is probably my favorite comic of the week. Now, I have been reading The Dark Knight monthly, but it's not one of my favorite comics every month. I think it's kind of a weird place, especially with the like 7 or 8 Batman comics that are running with DC. It's kind of a weird place where it's kind of more action heavy than Batman or Detective or really or any of the other comics that Batman is in. So it was kind of like it didn't really quite have a place. But I think what they do in this annual is brilliant. It is a Batman-less annual. The 3 main characters are Penguin, Mad Hatter, and the Scarecrow. Sorry, it was left to right camera. And the Scarecrow, who have been the 3 main arc villains of the Dark Knight comics. So it's a nice recap. Kind of a recap. It's a nice kind of, this is where we've been, and, this is what happened. But it's a great standalone comic, too. The main plot is that the 3 villains, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, and Penguin, have all been kind of invited to the Penguin's old mansion, and they don't know who invited him, and they figure it's a trap by the Batman, and they're all just kind of freaked out at what's happening. There's like lightning, bats, there's bat scarecrows, and it's all, you don't really know what's going on either. Like, you assume it's also, it's also the Batman planning a trap, and you're just waiting for Batman to appear. And it's a great comic. There's lots of tension, but there's also a lot of great dialogue just between the villains. They all suspect, that it's each other, kind of, at first, like, oh, why did you invite me here? Oh, you also have no idea why you're here. Okay, that's cool. And there's a lot of good banter of them talking about, basically just talking about the Batman. And there's this great part, this great page right here, where they're talking about how Batman crashes through skylights all the time. And the Penguin has this great line, we should open a stained glass window repair business, we'd make a mint. So it's great that you get this kind of comedic dialogue between the villains. It really humanizes them, it's more than... Because Batman villains are more so, I think, than any other rogues gallery, known for being like these more deeper characters, more than one note kind of guys. So this is just a great way of exploring that, and it is more comical than dramatic, but you do have, your tension with when will Batman show up, and is Batman behind it at all? And I really don't want to spoil anything, because it's just a great single issue. It's a great, not, I wouldn't say non sequitur, but just a great kind of issue to hop in on. It's a great villain story. You have the three villains all bouncing off each other. And like, if you're looking for Batman, if you just want a good Batman story, I wouldn't recommend it. If you want just a good story with Batman villains in the Batman universe, I'd definitely pick it up. Like I said, my favorite issue of the week. And I really hope that from here, the main Dark Knight comic picks up. I really hope it gets a few hints just as for characterization and how to kind of build tension, and not have a pure kind of Batman beating up action people comic, kind of take its time. The pacing's great, characterization's great, dialogue's great, art is really good too. Everything kind of looks like the cover. It's all very dramatic. I think it might be the same guy who did the Penguin Pride and Prejudice miniseries, but again, don't quote me on that. But I really just loved this comic, so I would definitely recommend it. And now the last comic of the week. It is Scott Snyder's The Wake Part 1. Snyder, of course, writes Batman, and he's killing on that. Batman is one of my favorite comics of just every month. It's consistently one of my favorites. So I thought, I love Snyder, might as well pick up his new limited series by Vertigo, as you can see. So still DC, Vertigo imprint, The Wake. And I was not disappointed. Snyder is, of course, is as brilliant as ever as setting up a story. You get the main plot so far is that you have these marine biologists. Well, there's the main character is Parker, who is over here. That's her, and she's a, what's the word? What is the word? She is a somethingologist. What sort of ologist is she? Anyway, she studies sounds. She's a soundologist. And so the Department of Homeland Security reaches out to her, and he's like, we found this weird noise, and it's a weird noise, and they don't know what it is, and it's kind of like a woo, kind of like a whale song, but it's not rhythmic, it's kind of random, and so they have no idea what it is. So like, hey, there's something spooky going on, let's try and figure out what it is. And so she's like, okay, whatever, I'll do this. And she has a son, and they're like, we'll let you see your son more often if you do this for us. And she's like, yeah, I love my son. Let's do that. And so she goes with the Department of Homeland, with the agent from Homeland Security, and they go to this secret base underneath Alaska, and there she meets some more professionals. There's Dr. Archer, who is a professor of folklore and mythology. There is Meeks, who is a marine biologist, like an actual biologist, studies tissues and whatnot. And then there's another guy, Bob, who is some they're some sort of archaeologist, studies whatchamacallit, studies relics or whatever. Anyway, they're all got called here to lend their expertise to figuring out what something is. Although we might find out on the cover it's some sort of thing in a straitjacket and a test tube, but we're not sure exactly if that's what made the noise. There's also, in the beginning, we kind of get a hint of what's going on. We get a flooded city, some chick with blue hair, and then at the end, we get a little hint that this might have been going on for a long time because there's some cavemen with some future technology. So it sets up the three timelines. You have future, present, past. Kind of sets up the mystery, like what is this thing? What's this thing in the straitjacket? What is the government doing with all of them? And for an issue 1, it's pretty good. It introduces things very well, especially Archer, the main character. We really get a sense of who she is. We know she's a mom. We know she's she's tough, kind of stubborn, but likable. She's a very likable character. All the characters are likable in this comic, which is weird because you have a government agent who you think, oh, not exactly trustworthy, but still likable. You still want to, you still want to know what's going on with him rather than what's going on despite him. And the other characters we're introduced to, though they don't have much time in the spotlight, we want to know more, I guess. It's a good first issue. I'd recommend it. If you like Scott Snyder, this is probably more of the same with him. You can probably expect good work, good tension building, good pacing, good horror, and good characters, and good characterization, good dialogue. So I can't wait for this story to continue. So all in all, it was a good week for comics. The most disappointing, as I said, was Adventure Time, but it still was good. I'd still recommend it if you like Adventure Time. And everything else was really good. I'm especially surprised by Earth 2, because I wasn't expecting it to be something that really brought me back into wanting to read the series. And Dark Knight, again, was a big surprise, best issue of the week, and just a really good issue overall. I'd recommend everything I picked up today. I would recommend all 5 of these lovely books. And yeah, it's good to be reviewing comics again. I missed it. So next week, expect this again with more books. I don't quite know what they are yet, but we'll see, won't we? So thanks for listening. If you've read these, if you read other books, if you want to recommend something I should read, feel free to do so in the comments. But if not, I'll be back next week with the books I read anyway. So thanks for listening. Again, like, subscribe, comment, whatever, And again, thanks. It was fun.